Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 0 of our podcast, True Talk. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about landing your first job just as you reach Canada, and also about landing your first job right after graduation. In this episode, we have two interesting guests. We have Nico, who is a recent TRU alumni, and we have Larry Iles. He is part of the Career and Experiential Learning. He is an advisor there, and both are going to be sharing with us their experience. Larry is going to be sharing with us some of his work, what he does there, and we're going to be touching a little bit on the workforce and the career environment here in Canada. So I hope you guys enjoy, and please let us know in the comments anything, if you have any questions or any comments. We would love to hear it from you guys. So now I'll leave the spotlight to our colleague, Yash.
All right. Thank you, Edelson, for that lovely introduction, I guess. We have Nico here with us from CEL, but he is also an TRU alumni. Nico, tell us about yourself.
Well, I recently graduated from TRU just last spring. I did a Bachelor of Arts in English and a minor actually in Language and Global Studies, which I think is really cool. And I don't know if a lot of people know it exists, but it was cool. I recently graduated and I started working right away.
Oh, tell us more about your first job, because as an international student, how was it finding a first job? I know I've heard some things about your first job experience. So tell us more.
Well, my first job after graduation was very different than my first job in Canada. But my first job after graduation, I was lucky that I had a friend who had his own company, and I was working with him. And it was a good job, but it was really physically demanding. It was tiring. I wasn't having a lot of fun. But I was going to do it because I had just graduated and needed to keep working. Essentially, I'm paying for all of my bills myself and all of that. But I was lucky enough that soon, a couple of months after I graduated, while working at that job, I applied for my current position and I was lucky enough to get it. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm really happy in my current position, and it's the field that I want to be in for the long run. I'm really, really excited about that.
It's funny you say that, because I want to know how important is it for international student to find a part-time job before getting into a full-time job, I assume. And does the experience help, or what do you think when you're getting a part-time job?
I would say from experience, if I know it sounds bad, but if you can manage to get any Canadian work experience, that's invaluable. A lot of employers here do want to see that on your resume already, which is a little redundant, because they want to see the work experience, but the opportunity is not there. But it is, I think you should keep your possibilities open. You shouldn't limit yourself. I want this specific kind of job, so I'm only aiming for that. Try to be a little open-minded in what different types of jobs you can find. And I do think that any experience is good experience. And there's definitely something that can always be taken from a job. Even this past job I just mentioned, it wasn't the best, but I did learn a lot from it. So I am thankful for that. And of course, I am getting paid, which at the end of the day, that's what you want. That's what you want. So just don't try to limit yourself. Any Canadian work experience is going to be good on your resume. So try to keep pushing forward, I guess.
Yeah, for all my viewers, I think something which I want to emphasize is, when I came to Canada for the first time, obviously, I didn't expect the Canadian culture and the job environment to be such a drastic difference between my home country and here, because I came in expecting that everyone would be just rude, or just would want me to be working, and there wouldn't be any talks, or I wouldn't be make friends at my work. But even at my part-time job, my first part-time job, there's so much to learn. Any experience, I think, that you said is a good experience, because you could just build your way, and it just accumulates. What with my first experience, I guess, was at a retail company. and like I was just stunned because I think Canadians are way too nice, and yeah, I loved being there. Like there were these. I think my boss was an elder lady, and then she would just treat me like a grandson, and I didn't expect it to be that way. Like being a immigrant, being an international student here, and like to be treated like such a way in their part time job. It just feels good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that a lot that I can take from all of the jobs I've had is that I've met a lot of great people. I've made a lot of friends. My first job, again, it was a part-time job. I worked at a restaurant, and it wasn't like I knew I wasn't going to be doing that for the rest of my life, but I still tried to enjoy the moment. I learned a lot, and I made a lot of friends, people who I still talk to. So I think that's really something that maybe us as international students we don't really think about that when we're coming into Canada. Of course, there's the expectation that we have to study, but we also have our own expectation. We want to be able to support ourselves, so we go to these jobs. And that's I think the friendship is something big that we don't really necessarily think about. I think like a lot of my friends I've made through work, which is I don't know. I think I'm really glad that it happened that way. Of course, people I've met at TRU, but definitely through some of the jobs.
Yes. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if like more than 50% of the Canadian workforce was international people, or like even in Kamloops. What do you think? How is the job market, even like part-time job market, is in Kamloops? Like, do you think it has changed, or like what are your views on it?
Well, I won't lie. Before I got my first job, I was struggling to get a job. I would apply. I wasn't applying to a ton of jobs. I also won't lie and say that, but I applied to a fair amount of jobs, and I still felt like I wasn't given any opportunity. But I think it's because I didn't have that Canadian work experience, and that's I think where networking comes in. Because that first restaurant job I mentioned, I managed to go into that position because I knew someone that worked it already, and she referred me to the owner, and then I had my interview, and I kind of got the job on the spot because they desperately needed someone at that point, and it was just before COVID too. But I think just having those connections before also helps a lot. Because it's giving you a like you're getting ahead of the curve a little bit by just having those connections there. And I do think that I've been lucky enough that I have had a job steadily since I got that first job before COVID. I haven't struggled in that regard, but I have heard from my peers and some other students here at TRU that it's been very difficult to find a job, and the market right now, I'm not a professional in that field, but it seems that it's tough for everyone all around.
That makes sense. Yes, I surprisingly had a different story because when I had come to Canada, I think I got my first job in the first 20 days, my first part-time job, and I guess I was just lucky because you also need to see. I think there's like hiring periods where there's a certain month or like certain period of time where a lot of companies hire at the same time. You're being part-time jobs. Probably say February and then September, probably relating to the intakes that TRU has here in Kamloops. But I was lucky enough to get a job as soon as I came here, almost instantaneously, and touch wood that I've been lucky enough to have a job every time I leave one, or like if I want to get into a better opportunity, I just have had an opportunity. But yes, I agree that my peers, my friends also have struggled getting a job. Like some people haven't gotten a job yet, which I feel like it's also comes to your part, like as a person, how you express yourself, and it might be you might not be performing the best in the interview, or like there must be something going wrong with the resume, or just not the right time, I guess.
Yeah, I also think that a lot of people our age, at least, they don't necessarily look at the other avenues where they could get that Canadian work experience. And something I would definitely recommend is, and something I personally did, was volunteering, or if you can, just be a part of your community. Either, like I said, through volunteering, you can mentor or be an ambassador for different groups on campus. And that's also something you can put on your resume. That's also Canadian work experience. it's not a part-time job or a full-time job, but it's still something that shows that you have been part of the workforce. You have assimilated somewhat to the culture, the differences, and that's something that an employer would, I assume, would find valuable.
Yeah, that's excellent to bring that up, because I was just going to ask. I think I've seen you everywhere in TRU before, and before I came to TRU, you were all over Instagram, and I assume you must have volunteered a lot, must have held a lot of career ambassador positions or like peer mentor positions. How was the experience doing that, and like being an alumni? What do you think students should be doing, like new students who are coming in right now, and how would you say they should go about volunteering at TRU and building their future here?
Well, TRU I think is great in the sense that it has a lot of opportunities to mentor other students or to volunteer with different departments. For myself, what I did was I would volunteer with TRU World in different events. I volunteered during I Days, it's actually really, really, really fun to volunteer for events like that. So I would definitely recommend volunteering if you can during orientation, during I Days, during those big events. And that way you can show up for people who are in the shoes you were previously in your first year. You can kind of help guide them. And that's something that really drove me to lead the path I kind of took at TRU. I wanted to be, it's cliche, you probably heard this, but like be the person you needed,
Yes.
or something like
Yes.
that. And so I wanted to be that person for a first year student. And so that's how I found about the peer mentor opportunities on campus. There's a lot, like I said, a lot of different peer mentor programs or ambassadors. But the one I did was the Orientations and Transitions mentor, which is, it was great. We worked during orientation day, kind of the first point of contact for first year students is that orientation day. It's where you come on campus, you see the all of the new students and some of the faculty and staff on campus as well, and some of the people who are going to be your peers for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed being part of that team, and I think just being part of any, like either social media ambassadors, you can be future student ambassadors, wellness center ambassadors, different types of peer leaders on campus is a really, really good way to get that experience and just put yourself out there.
It's funny you say that, just because we have so many, I guess, similarities between us. When you said that be the person you wanted to be there with you, I think that's what I live my life by ever since I've been in Canada. Actually, my first volunteer experience was with TRU World as well. I was a volunteer at the orientation, and by the way, that's the best place to start if you're looking for volunteer experiences, because they just always need volunteers for orientations or events happening all around campus, and that's where I started my journey. I moved from there to LEAP. I went from LEAP to being a social media ambassador. I had done that for like almost 2.5 years now, and I'm pretty sure that's not even allowed, being a social media ambassador for so many years. But I guess I was just there. I was just hanging out, and it really helps building connections, building networks. And I was a library ambassador, and now I've been like lucky enough, and I've also gotten a position as a career and orientation transition mentor. So I think we have so many similarities between us. But yeah, between this, I think all this brings down to is networking. And there have been allegations against you that you are a nepotism baby. So so how do you beat those allegations? Like, what do you think about networking and how it helps you get an actual job?
Well, I think networking is one of the strongest tools you can pick up during your journey as a student, be it international or in your home country. I think this is something that could resonate with a lot of different cultures, just making those connections any way you can. For me, the mentoring was the way I made those connections. I met a lot of people who worked at TRU while I was a mentor. And not just in the faculty where I was working, just in with like future students as well. The like Kapolkaton, the Gathering plays, a lot of the elders, I also got to meet them. So it's a really great tool to meet both new people, new students at TRU, and also just to network with people who potentially could help you get into your field.
Huh. So, Nico, you have already graduated from TRU, but can you give us, and you graduated from bachelor's art degree, right?
Yes.
So how do you suggest some, I guess, tips or like something that would help our future students or like viewers watching this and like helping them getting by the university life and like getting a good job later? What do you suggest?
Well, definitely volunteering. I think that's or being part of the TRU community. I think that's something big. That's part of the student life. Just being part of the community. Just making those connections. I guess it's a way I would say it if we're focusing on those career prospects. But I would say also just make sure you're staying on top of your grades and stuff, and like don't just focus on a job. Make sure you also excel in your studies. And something that we've been discussing with some of my colleagues is the fact that a lot of students take for granted what they personally can bring to a workplace. So it can be a little scary sometimes when you don't know what to do with your degree. But just stop and think. Of course, like myself, an English student, I could do this or that job, but it's what I personally can bring. Like what makes you special. Well, as maybe cringy as that sounds or cliche.
No, I think that's a perfect segue because I feel like every student or every entrance student or like every person brings their own story to the table. And what I think entrance students lack is they do not express themselves a lot of times. They hold back, and which I feel like is not good. Firstly, because you aren't building connections if you aren't showing what you truly are. And there's so many times where I've seen there might be a peer or there might be a supervisor looking for something in a specific person, and if you do not express yourself, you might not showcase what you bring to the table. And I think you pretty sure like pretty much just put it out on the table. Like that's what they need. Apart from that, Nico, I would just like to ask you how. So I know you haven't done co-op yet, which is kind of an irony because you work with career and professional learning. But how would you see co-op, like CEL, and contacting CEL as a resource that TRE offers, and how important do you think that is?
Well, I definitely think that is something a lot of students might take for granted. Just the help and the aid they could get from career and experiential learning. It is definitely a great resource for new students and alumni alike. You get access to all the services there for your whole duration of your studies and after you graduate. And something that people should definitely take advantage of is the fact that, first of all, it's free. You can book an appointment and meet with a professional who can help you cater your resume for a specific job or a cover letter for a specific job, and just building up on something we mentioned earlier, the cover letter. I think a lot of people, like, that's where you shine as an individual, and that's where you should definitely put your, like, what you bring to the table, put it on the cover letter. And that's something career and experiential learning can help you with.
I never cared for a cover letter. Usually when I used to apply for a job, it's just like, this doesn't matter. Like, it's just cover letter. I personally didn't even know what a cover letter was until I went into CEL, and they, like, because when you apply for a job, especially as part-time job, you don't really care for a cover letter, do you? Like, you just put your resume in and you just like, okay, so I'm done, let me just wait for a call. But that's so different when you apply for an actual job after you graduate or you're looking for a co-op opportunity, because you need to put yourself on a cover letter, I feel. There's been times where I've written cover letter for my friends too, and just because they don't feel like it. And even though how much of a bad practice that is, I try to put out their personality in it, like, and try to be as fun and unique. I feel like that's what I bring to the table. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think you definitely touch on something that's, I think, true. For a lot of part-time positions and like sort of those entry level jobs into Canadian workforce, I guess. Most of the time, I don't think you're gonna be asked for a cover letter, but it's still good practice to either create one or just keep that in mind that that's not the reality of what you're going to be facing later on. And like you said, for co-op positions, co-op is a good opportunity to sort of dip your toes into what you could be doing later on. And for most of the co-op positions, you are going to be asked for a cover letter. Most of the jobs within, like, for example, biology fields, like business, tourism, you are going to be asked for a cover letter. So keep that in mind, that not necessarily just because you haven't had to do one yet, it's not going to come down the road. And so you have to be prepared, and career and experiential learning is definitely there to help.
I think when we have Larry next up, he'll probably have more tips and insights on what a student can do. But tell me, Nico, is this your final destination, like being a career experiential support or assistant? Is that your final destination, or like are you looking to probably progress in life, or like probably find a better opportunity? And what do you want to go about that?
Well, I don't think necessarily this iteration of the work I'm doing is the end goal, but I am thankful that within my department there are growth opportunities, and there is a lot of support, and we find different ways that I can showcase and use the skills and practice and do the things I want to do in the long run, even while I am in this, as you said, the program assistant position. I think I'm really thankful for that support. It feels like, of course, it's the career department, so they understand the career aspect of it, and they want to help me grow as a like a professional individual. And so I am really thankful for that. But I definitely want to stay within the education field, be it at CEL or any other sort of department, either be it at TRU, back home, just wherever the road takes me, I guess.
And did you always wanted to be in the career or like education field, or like how did that happen? Or maybe when you left home or like came to TRU, what did you have in mind, and how different is it happening?
Well, when I came to TRU, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but during my time at TRU and now that I've graduated, I think that's changed a little bit into the just the language around it. It's not necessarily a teacher, but an educator, and I see myself doing some of that right now in this current position. But be it as a university professor or like a counseling person at the university, that type of, when I say education, that's what I mean. Some like transferring some of the knowledge I have into younger people or newer students, and that's ultimately what drives me.
Yeah. All right. As we come close to the end of the segment, would you like to tell us, our viewers, about top 3 advice or tips you would like to give to the new students coming in, or like current students who are watching this, and just be like, if you follow these 3 advice, you'll probably have a higher chance of getting a job? Or what's up? Tell me.
Well, definitely something we've touched on quite a bit. Just the networking piece of it. Don't take that for granted. If you can somehow make connections, say you're a business student and you want to work at Scotiabank, if you can somehow make those connections before you graduate, that's something that's going to help you a lot down the line. Maybe not land you a job directly, but you can ask them like, hey, what's something you would recommend for someone like me who wants to go into that field, that area? So definitely the networking. Another tip I would say, maybe try to be active in your community. This is not necessarily only related to the career aspect of it, but you're going to find that maybe you're coming to university and you're not necessarily sure what you want to do with your degree. But by being active in your community, by volunteering or mentoring, you're going to see, hey, maybe I'm really good at this. And maybe you want to add to this, being a biology student doing a marketing position. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, that you don't necessarily have to bottle yourself in, oh, I'm a biology student, I have to work at a lab.
Following your passion is really important.
Yeah, I think following your passion. And for the third one, just enjoy it, I guess. Enjoy it while it lasts. Being a university student, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to grow a lot as a person. And just try to enjoy it as much as you can.
Before I let you go, would you rather choose being a university student or like working? Or why? Or do you even still, do you miss being a university student anymore?
Well, sometimes I do, but it's a very different vibe, because while you're a student, it kind of doesn't stop, because you're constantly you're thinking of the next assignment, you're going to class, plus you're also probably working a part-time job. But now that I am fully like working full-time, I feel like I sometimes don't even know what to do with all the time off I have.
Yeah.
Like I get to shut it off after my work hours. I know that's not the reality for all of the full-time workers, but I get to shut it off after I'm done work, and I get to go home and do whatever I like. So it's very different. I don't know if I would say I want to go back. I probably will go back at some point to pursue further studies, but I'm definitely going to take a break for now.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nico, for sharing those insights. And next up, we have Larry Iles coming up and taking over the hot seat. So thanks so much, Nico.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too.
All right. We have now Larry Iles here with us. Larry, could you introduce yourself to the guests?
Sure. My name is Larry Iles. I am a tenured faculty member here at TRU, and I'm the Experiential Learning Coordinator. Fun fact, been at TRU for 27 years.
Oh my God.
Looking at me, you can't believe it because I look 24, but it's true.
That's exactly what I'm going to say, because I'm 23 and like he's...
Well, the same age.
Yeah, same age. Yeah. He's my senior, actually. Yeah, so actually it's really good that you're here, because we just had Nico, your colleague.
Yeah, one of our program assistants, yep.
Here, and he was talking about how he secured a job, and we actually wanted now expert advice from you. And would you care to give us some expert advice, probably from your end, to our listeners here about how they can secure a job at the Canadian workforce, and how the situation is right now? Like, what do you think about the market? And like, there's obviously so many things going around, and yeah, what are your views?
All right. Well, thanks a lot for having me today. I really appreciate it, Yash. Question for you then: what do you think's going on right now? What have you been hearing in the world? What do you think's happening in the world of career?
Yeah. Well, if you think of it from my point of view, I'm just a student here. So
Not just a student. You're a student.
yeah, I'm a student at TRU, but I'm still just a student who's on student visa, doesn't have a work visa yet, isn't a PGWP. So for me, the situation seems a little dire, because I think the job market is a little, how do I say this? There's less jobs, more people, I guess, and the scarcity of jobs. And the one thing that is a saving grace for me, I guess, would be I'm a STEM guy. Right. So, and I think that there's a lot of opportunities in STEM if you want to go into research, probably go into a laboratory, or probably have your own thesis, or just go for masters. There's a lot of opportunities for STEM. So all of you STEM people out there, get your ears up. Is that one for you?
Yeah, so I think you summed it up rather well from a student's perspective.
Yes.
The good news is there is a lot of opportunities right now for our graduates, not just here at TRU, but in the country. The job market is strong. We anticipated a bigger dip in the pandemic. Of course, we've never lived through a pandemic before, so it was all guessing. But other than the high inflation, the job market's held pretty strong, actually, not only in STEM, but in any area. So I think right now at today's rate, the BC unemployment rate, which is one metric that we use a lot to determine how the labor market's doing, I think it's it's between 4 and 5%. Statistically, that's a really good number. That means there is enough work for everyone if people are willing to move and they're mobile and they have the right skill set. There's other factors, but it's a statistically really good number for the job market. In British Columbia, we're one of the strongest provinces right now in the labor market, so we're doing very well. Other ones like Ontario, et cetera, some of the bigger provinces are doing well as well. But for our population growth, we're doing well. Mobility is the key as well. So if people want to stay in Kamloops, and I always use this example, if you're a physics student, STEM, in Kamloops and you want to work at a super collider, we don't have a super collider that I'm aware of. We don't, unless there's a hidden one downstairs.
I think we have is like a research.
Yeah, well, we don't have a super collider. The only super collider in British Columbia is in Triumph Labs, which is in Vancouver. So if you're a physics student who wants to do theoretical physics in a super collider lab, you have to move to Vancouver. But there's other opportunities in the interior. They're just different. One area that's soft in the job market right now, and for students coming to campus right now, if you're watching this and you're wondering what's going on, the part-time service industry market is soft. So those are the jobs these are not our career jobs. Like Starbucks, Canadian Tire, Home Depot. I worked at Canadian Tire for all my university career. That wasn't my career choice as a teacher, but it's what I did for money. So that market's a little soft right now in Canada. So students have to work a little harder than previous generations of students in the past couple of years. The government changed the marketplace to raise inflation, and that had a decrease in the part-time job market, which is what they wanted. They wanted to slow down job growth a little bit, which is weird for a government to do, but that's what happened. So from our perspective, for any new students coming in and you're wondering about the part-time job market, it's so important to come to the Career and Experiential Learning Department more than ever to help navigate where those jobs are, where the hidden ones jobs are. And individually as career coordinators and co-op coordinators, experiential learning coordinators, we talk to employers all the time, thousands of employers. So we know stuff that might not be on Indeed and LinkedIn and all the other stuff. So there's a big answer. That's a big question. But the job market overall is strong, but there's variables in there.
That's why we need an expert insight, because I personally did not have a clue about that. So thank you for that. Probably gonna go home and look for more jobs for myself. So tell me this. What do you think are the underrated fields or like underrated programs here at TRU that people do not really care for, but there's a lot of job opportunities in it? I know there's like business, but like business is kind of overrated in my opinion. But what do you think are underrated?
Well, business programs are awesome. Everything's business. TRU is a business, so business skills, biggest business acumen is important across the board. I can't think of any TRU program that isn't valuable and doesn't have a place in either in the cultural market or in the more business market area. So that's everything from our certificate programs to our master's programs. There's a niche role for everybody. What we're focusing on a little more in career planning is not jobs. Like everyone looks up, I want to be an accountant, I want to be a doctor, something like that. We're more focusing on roles. Like on a Wednesday, for example, what would I be doing on a Wednesday at my role? So we're trying to work with students not to think about job titles and more, what do I like to do and where can I fit into that role? And so a philosophy student, for example, might be an amazing investment banker because they like people. They're good at talking. The philosophy students are good at analytical expertise, looking at different aspects of the world and society, and all those things add up into good financial planning. Like you wouldn't consider philosophy in financial planning, but that might be a role that a philosophy student may or may not want. So that's what we work a lot on, is less job titles. And what do you see yourself doing on a Wednesday 5 years from now? So it's a different way to pitch it. As a colleague of mine, Chris Magnuson, Dr. Chris Magnuson at SFU, he's done a lot of work in this area about focusing on roles instead of job titles. And how many job titles do you think there are in North America? Just job titles alone. Anyone?
200, I guess.
Over 65,000 possible job titles.
I was way off. Damn. This actually sounds like a fun fact.
It's a fun fact, yeah. It's one to grow on. Yeah, there's a test later. Yeah, at the end of this, there's a test. That's right. I want 1,000 words by midnight after you watch this in my office.
You know me, I've been in your class. I'm a terrible student. So actually, I would vouch for CEL services because I remember I have a friend. He's also coincidentally in a STEM degree here at TRU, and he loves content creation. And he used to work with TRU World a lot, and they actually helped him get a job as a marketing guy at TRU. But he's a STEM guy. He's a STEM major, And and he's told me about it, and it surprised me every time, because how does a microbiology guy go into marketing and has a passion for marketing? And I think that's just CAL and the amazing job that you guys do. So I'm really thankful for you guys to be on campus, first of all, because I think that's one of the biggest propositions that TRU even offers, a co-op, and that's just Larry, I guess. What do you want to tell people more about what a co-op is? Because
Well, we have three elements to our department more than just co-op. So co-op is one. It's probably our smallest program. It's the one that gets all the advertising and marketing. We have about 500 or 600 co-op students, which is a great program. If you're in a program that has co-op option, you should take it. I'm always disappointed when students in fourth year say they didn't do it or didn't have time or didn't hear about it, because students can walk out of TRU without extending their degree. That's a rumor. It's a myth that if you join co-op, it's going to extend your degree. It doesn't for most students. You can leave TRU with your 4-year degree, if you're in a 4-year degree program, with almost a year and a half of paid work experience for a company, organization, or a nonprofit on top of your degree. So the market share of having a co-op is huge. And co-op is Canada is a very co-op country. There's hundreds of thousands of co-op students, and employers are what we call co-op aware. They like co-op. They probably were a co-op student, and they like to hire from co-op and give back as well. So it's a nice win-win that way. Students are getting the win, and employers get to check out their new talent as well. But we also have two other aspects to our department. We have career planning. So we have currently, we have one career planner. They're very busy. We have 15,000 students and only one career planner. We could use more. But they're...
A quick question. Do you hire career planning people from co-op? Because then we could apply as a co-op.
We could. No, we tend to hire people with graduate school and background as a counselor or a career planner. So, because it's its own discipline, right? So it's like accounting's a discipline. Career development theory is its own discipline as well. So, but if you went to school for it, yes. So we have career planning. So that's one-on-one seminars. We also teach courses in career planning as well. And then we have experiential learning. So students who can't access co-op, they have access through my area, the experiential learning coordinator, is if you want to work on short-term projects, 3 to 5 hours a week with organizations across the country, I can connect you to organizations that are looking for students to work on short-term projects. And often these projects turn into future roles, networking, etc. So co-op, yes, is a set program. It's for credit, which is super cool here at TRU. We're one of the few schools that has co-op as elective credit, open elective credit. But we also have career planning and experiential. It's called Experience More for the other 10, 12, 13,000 students that don't have access to co-op right now. So that's a valuable part of our department. So something for everybody.
Yeah. How big of a role does doing a co-op have, play in the later stages of future? Probably if I graduate without a co-op versus a student who graduates with a co-op, would you think a student who graduates with a co-op gets a job faster, or how do you think it affects him?
Yeah, the evidence is really strong. So the research supports that co-ops, if you have a co-op student and a non-co-op student in the same program, everything else being equal, personality, work ethic, etc., the co-op student will find work much quicker than the non-co-op student. The average Canadian, the average student going to school in Canada, international or Canadian, takes about 6 months to find their first career-related job, if not longer. Co-op students, if not, they typically stay with the work term with a company they're already with, or they find a role within a month or so, because they have experience and the degree. The degree on its own, without any experience, in this marketplace with so many co-op students, or maybe they've done experience more or something else, or service learning, they have some experience. It's tough to compete if you've only done 4 years and you've not done anything else, to study and come home. There's some exceptions if you're planning to go to graduate school or med school or dentistry. There's some exceptions, but for the average student, you need some background in some way before you apply, only because the marketplace is so competitive. 30, 40 years ago, the degree was enough to buy you a job, but now while you're at school, there's ways to get involved. That's what our department does, is connect all of our students to future labor markets.
One question that we had gotten in one of our videos was a comment from a student who goes to TRU, and it was that even they did co-op, they haven't been able to secure a job yet. What do you think would they be doing wrong? Like, if you don't know the person, but like, what do you think? Just a guess. What are they doing wrong, or like, what are people who have done a co-op but not getting a job are doing wrong?
Well, one is, if you're a student out there, you've done co-op and you haven't got a job, come back and talk to us. We work with all students for the rest of your life. Alumni can still work with us. But Yash, that's a super hard question to answer. There's many factors. Even though I have experience and a degree, maybe it's work ethic. Maybe I'm not willing to move. Maybe I didn't interview well. Maybe I'm shy. Maybe I'm not shy and I'm too over the top. There's so many factors of why people don't get work. So that's a hard, impossible question to answer, really. That's why students are encouraged to always keep in touch with our department. We can help them out. I work with alumni all the time. But there's so many factors of why people don't get work. And I hear this often, but the majority, the evidence and research is strong. The vast majority of students that access some version of experiential learning or career services or career development or co-op tend to get work quicker than students who never use any career support while at university.
All right. So
there's always exceptions.
Yeah, because I think co-op what CEL does is a good job at, like, probably almost as holding your finger and leading you. Like, there's a saying, like, you can lead the horse to the pond, but you can't make it drink water. So, like, yeah, I think there's so many things that could go wrong. And that brings me to the topic of international students, because TRU houses a lot of international students, me being one. What do you think are top mistakes international students make when hunting for job, or like, how do you think can they avoid them?
Okay. I think all students make the same mistakes. It doesn't matter where you're from. It's just human nature. It doesn't matter. I think I'll flip it over. I think one error is the employer market really needs to recognize the fantastic skill set that international students bring to the economy and to the labor market. So for international students, and I'm going to guess everyone in the room, there's other people here behind you, camera, that you've decided to move, for many people, halfway around the world to Kamloops, British Columbia, and I'm from Canada, and I didn't know where Kamloops, British Columbia was when I got here 30 years ago. So you've decided to move halfway around the world and take what a risk and a chance at the same time. So translate that into an employee where I want my employees to be risk takers. I want my employees to take a chance, try something new. Don't do the same thing over and over again. I could hire a robot to do that. So the fact that international students have taken this massive leap, and no offense to our colleagues in schools in Vancouver, Toronto, that's easy going to a big city. Coming to Kamloops itself is a bigger risk than moving to Toronto or Vancouver or New York or whatever it is. So if I was an international student, I would really talk about when they say, what are your strengths? I left my friends, my family, my support network, came to a largely Caucasian community and took a big risk, and now I love it and I've really integrated. I think that's the biggest strengths international students. And so the mistake international students make is they don't talk about that story enough. It's all about storytelling. But other mistakes that all students make, doesn't matter what country here or not, is not doing the work, not coming to our department, guessing that about the job, not doing the research. Nowadays, maybe using ChatGPT a little too much as well. So one risk I'm seeing with ChatGPT, and by the way, I love ChatGPT Omni.
Yes.
I use it all the time. It's my new best friend, especially the voice command one. But the risk of that is, if I get ChatGPT Omni to develop an awesome interview script and a resume and cover letter for me, and then I go to the interview and I don't match what ChatGPT just wrote for me, it's going to be, the disconnect's going to be huge. I'm going to be interviewing this person. They're not going to use the right words. They're not going to come off as smooth or as knowledgeable as the resume I just read, and the writing might not be as good, and I'm not a good writer, so I could get caught in this as well. The writing might not be as good as ChatGPT. So I think the tool is awesome as a foundational practice tool, but I think the risk that all students could take right now is relying too heavily on it in a job search.
Yeah, this script was complete, not written by ChatGPT. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I use it all the time. So.
I think the major thing is, I think even in an interview, you gotta showcase your personality. You gotta tell your story. And I know I was in your class, and the one thing that you did tell me was, ChatGPT is great, but while in an interview or like with somebody, you gotta showcase your personality and let your inner inner voice speak instead of just like a computer talk for you. And that's the biggest advice I think I've had, because I love ChatGPT too. Uh, yeah, as a person who works for TRU, I'm saying that. But yeah, it's a great tool, and that brings me to my next question. How can students leverage social media, online platforms, and open like AI to in their job search?
Yeah, so this is, I think, where AI does come in handy. So I call this your digital shadow or your digital social shadow. So everything you do online is you're followed, you're tracked. From the moment you wake up, I always watch CBC News, so automatically I've left a cookie somewhere. And I can be tracked. So students can really leverage social media right from first year by posting and getting involved with social media about what your future career is going to be. Even by following other people that are in the career that you want to be in the future, or by getting really active, developing your own website. LinkedIn is the major one right now. Oh, someone fell down. So it's okay. We'll get them later. Yeah, we'll edit that out.
They're running out of the room. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so social media is great. So you just have to have a plan. Like your earlier question about mistakes people make, people don't plan it out. So it's almost like any type of program. You got to plan out what you want to do. So this is where ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini or Copilot all come in handy. You can tell it who you are, upload your resume, a cover letter, and say, developed a social media campaign for me to market my future job or career. And it will do a really good job of that. You still have to do the work. You still have to be creative. But I think all students, for most cases, having an active career plan in social media is really important. And I call it your digital shadow, because when you're interviewed, you're going to get Googled. They're going to Google your name. Some companies care more than others what they find. But imagine if they Googled you and everything they read about you was pointed toward either that organization, if it's one you always wanted to work for, or at least that career. It would really show right from the beginning you were super involved in your career choice, if you knew it. Now, nobody knows what they want to do yet. So that's a different story.
That brings me, I think when I was in your class, the one thing that you said was...
This was a great class.
Yeah, like, I think, I don't know, I probably regret saying this, but like Larry is a great instructor.
So who's your favorite professor? I was going to ask you.
It's Larry. Yeah. It's Larry. After ChatGPT, though. I'm just gonna full disclosure. This podcast isn't sponsored by ChatGPT, but
No, it's not. No, we're not sponsored.
We would love a sponsor though. But I'm just saying OpenAI. Yes. I think getting a LinkedIn up is a great first step.
Yeah, that's the easy one. Yeah.
Because I didn't have LinkedIn before I even joined the class, and I probably found it lame. But I think it's a very good first step if you're looking to get into the job market.
And it's easy. Like LinkedIn for free. It's amazing that it's still free.
And you have to pay for it. Like the gold is mid, I would say.
The best job search career portfolio tool for free that's out there. And 1 million jobs available for professionals as well. It's not great for student jobs, like part-time jobs, like we were talking. It's great for after graduation jobs. It's really good for that.
Yes. I think this is something which I would be really interested in. You said you work with students a lot. Could you share one success story or something that has stuck by you, like one of your students, or like something that you really want to share? And like it could be an international student or a success story that you think people would want to know?
Well, I have thousands of stories, so I'm just trying to, for my long career.
That just shows that you're such a successful teacher.
No, I think people just do the work. I think it's better described as a composite student. So a composite student would be, if I was going to create an avatar of a student, they get involved with our department right from the beginning. They volunteer in the community. They join co-op if it's available. If it's not available, they take opportunities of our Experience More program. They get involved on campus through clubs, career ambassador, or a peer mentor program out of our faculty of student development. So they get involved in campus and do more than just go home, study. So they really get involved. So that and nice and personable, and also knowing that they have no experience yet and are humble enough to still learn. Even if it's a new career or a second career, because some of our students, especially in post-bac, have already worked for a while, but they are starting over a bit, and there's a humbleness that has to happen. So those students that I've worked with in the past, and they bring a lot to their own personality, those are the ones that are most successful. My favorite story, though, is a student that was a finance student, and this was pre-COVID. So the banks, they don't do this as much because now it's more digital, but they used to come to campus. And this student wore a color suit to match the brand of that bank. So if it was CIBC, they wore a red type suit. If it was BMO, they wore a blue suit. If it was TD, they wore a green suit. And inevitably, the recruiter would go, hey, that suit matches our corporate colors. And the student would go, I know, and would always go up and talk to them afterwards. And that's the other thing. If you go to a presentation, I'm always shocked how many students go to an employer presentation who say they're there hiring, and 99% of the students leave. And only 3 or 4 students stick around and talk. But this one student, I didn't teach that. I wish I could. But they showed up with a color suit of the brand, and they got a job at the bank right away. Yeah. So that was an amazing story.
So everybody who wants to go to a bank for a job should probably just wear a colored suit.
Yeah, well, that's that. But once again, if I did that, it might come across goofy or not real. That matched that person's personalities. You got to find your jam, right? So what's your jam's going to work for you? And you got to find that style.
I think everybody has their own personal way of expressing themselves, and you have your own personality, and you just have to bring it out. I have so many friends, international students as well, who do not want to express themselves. I was at a job fair that happened at TRU, and they were just roaming around, people asking for if they are hiring. And as you said, if they said they were hiring, they would just be shocked. They were like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're hiring? Oh, and then they just leave, which I think was a mistake I didn't make. If they were hiring, I would just probably ask for a brochure. I'd be like, how to apply for a job, talk to them more, and probably when does a career fair happen again?
Job fair is the first Thursday of February every year. So the date changes, but it's always the first Thursday of February.
Yes.
Yep. And this is our 25th anniversary.
25th anniversary of job fair?
Job fair, yeah. This year is our 25th anniversary of job fair coming up. It's also the 25th anniversary of our department as well. Wow. So our department in this forum, this is our 25th anniversary starting in January, so 2025. So it's a big milestone for our department.
I was wondering, because you started your job 27 years ago, and this is 25th anniversary, so you have been here before the department.
It was a different version of the department. It was just co-op. It wasn't all the other elements.
Damn, you make me feel, I don't know, you make me feel young, but in a weird way that I'm inexperienced, but then, trust me, I already feel my joints.
Get out of here. You're young. So another story that we work with students on is, once again, a student who's successful is the students that do their research, or at least have done a little background research on what they think their back career might be. So we work with students in the international business program a lot, and we get 2 types of students. We get one student who has a clear idea about international business or their role in it, and we get other students that come to us and say, I want a job as international business. International business isn't a job. And so we work with those students on same idea, that if I'm an international business, if I'm hiring, what am I hiring you to do? And so some students really struggle with that, especially in these broad programs, that they want to be international business, but if they start their own international business, that's one thing, entrepreneurship. But if they want to work for someone else, they have a tough time distilling down, what am I paying you to do every day? So once again, it's Wednesday at 10 o'clock. What are you doing for me? So some students come in with a good understanding of at least their role in an organization, and other ones struggle with that. So that's another difference. And that's something we work with a lot on students is defining what that role could look like. Yeah.
So as we inch closer to our ending of this segment, would you want to give us top 5 tips that you would think every student, be it international, domestic, who should follow to get a job in the Canadian market? I know first one would be joining CEL and taking Co-op 1000, but what others do you think?
I don't think I have 5 tips. I would say 1, make an appointment with the Career and Experiential Learning Department, and then we can explore the 10, 20 top tips of finding career after TRU. But it's hard to get 5. But I would say the one, make an appointment with the Career and Experiential Learning Department. See me in the hall, stop me, come to our workshops. I'm amazed. We do drop-in seminars and workshops all semester. We'll get 0 students or 10. We should have 1,000. So take advantage of everything that TRU has to offer as well. And I didn't do this as much. I went to Carleton University, shout out to Carleton, for my undergraduate. No, come to TRU. Bad school. But I didn't take advantage of anything at Carleton. I really struggled when I graduated. Worked at Canadian Tire, but I didn't do anything on campus. I didn't know what I was going to do with my degree.
Yeah, so I think the main tip that I would also give as a student who's taken co-op would be join Co-op 1000 and meet Larry.
Yeah, or come to our department, not just co-op, but come to the Career and Experiential Learning Department, and explore all the things we have to offer.
I think it's an amazing resource which students do not realize how good you are, and the whole team.
Yeah, team's amazing.
Yes, and it's just a good place to be. I hop in every day just to talk to the people there. So and everyone's a peach there. I mean, Sarah, shout out to Sarah, but yeah.
Yeah, so the team's great. So we have Sean, we have Arshita, we have Jamie, we have Leanne, we have Karina, we have Rashman, we have Bhavna, myself, Larry, Jamie, and then our program assistants, who you've met one, is Nico. We have Jackie, we have Elia, we have Mackenzie, and if I'm missing anyone, I apologize. But we have a really good team. We have Robbie, Leanne, so we have a really strong team.
Oh, I forgot. You guys also hire as a co-op, right? As a program.
We hire our own co-op students as well, yeah.
Viewers who are watching might want to have...
You come work for our department. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So that's probably the end of this podcast, probably. The key takeaway was CEL is a great resource that TRU offers. And if you have any doubts, you could probably just hop into the department, make an appointment. And the other key information that Edelson gave away was really important on how the job market is being affected right now. And if you're an international student, you might want to keep your eyes and ears open. And that's the end of episode 0. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Nico, for coming in. And thank you so much. Have a good day.
Well, thanks. Glad I could be part of episode 0. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.